To India now, where 8 months after an Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad killed 260 people, fresh government data is prompting a troubling question. Just how safe is it to fly in India? Well, data tabled in the Indian Parliament shows that nearly half of all aircraft examined across 6 carriers reported recurring technical defects. Since January last year, the Indian Civil Aviation Ministry analysed 754 aircraft. Of these, 377 planes, almost 1 in 2, were flagged for regular snags. India's 2 largest carriers, IndiGo and the Air India Group, account for the bulk of these cases. Well, IndiGo had the highest number of aircraft reviewed. As of February the 3rd, 405 IndiGo planes were audited by the government and 148 were found to have recurring defects. The Air India Group, however, shows a more alarming ratio. Of the 267 aircraft checked across Air India and Air India Express, 191 were flagged for repetitive issues. That's over 70% of the fleet audited. Well, responding to the figures, Air India has said the numbers are high because the airline conducted extensive checks. A senior Air India executive has also claimed that most of the issues fall under low priority category D defects, including seats, tray tables and in-flight screens, and are not directly related to flight safety.
We have, out of abundance caution, carried out checks across our fleet. Hence, numbers are higher.
While Air India maintains these are minor, low-priority defects, the bigger concern isn't just about categories or classifications. It's about a pattern of recent mid-air turnbacks, diversions and cancellations, all due to what the airline itself calls technical snags. Last month, an Air India flight to Singapore was forced to return to Delhi mid-air. In December, a Vizag-bound flight was cancelled due to a technical snag, and in November, an Air India flight from San Francisco faced a freezing detour over Mongolia. All of this is coming as the aviation regulator, the DGCA, says it has stepped up surveillance. The government also admits that recruitment has been a challenge. The DGCA's technical strength has now been increased from 637 posts in 2022 to more than 1,000. But as the world's fastest growing aviation market expands rapidly and millions take to the skies every day, the big question remains, are aircraft recurring defects being identified in time, or are they warning signs that the system cannot afford to ignore again? Well, for more on this, we have with us Devesh Agrawal, Chief Analyst at Bangalore Aviation, joining us live from Bengaluru. Welcome to the program. This is often to do with context. So overall, how does the Indian airline industry compare to other large carriers worldwide?
Hi, Kerry. Firstly, thank you for having me on your show. I think, you see, these are kind of cases of statistics that can be manipulated or showed however somebody wants to show it. If one looks at just, there are a couple or 3 channels on YouTube which show the ATC conversations, say, typically centered around New York. And you will find that at least 1 or 2 flights a day turn around and come back due to an engine defect or some flight control defect or something like that. So, excuse me, the fact that aircraft are turning around or they are not being operated, in fact, shows a higher level of vigilance by the pilots who previously felt pressure, that they had to perform a flight, and now they feel that if they turn back an aircraft or they don't operate a particular flight purely for technical reasons, they will not be, sort of hauled up. So, in a way, it is more positive that pilots are behaving proactively towards, calling something, okay, I'm not happy with this aircraft, I will err on the side of caution.
Right, so let me ask you then, so as you say, some might say that a system that identifies more issues is actually a success, not a failure, especially if the issues are small. Is that a valid point?
Oh, yes, I agree with you. But you have also, in your initial introduction, highlighted the fundamental problem. if you notice, just recently, the NTSB in the United States basically blasted the FAA for systemic failures, which resulted in the crash at Washington, D.C. And it's not that, it's the same situation that's slowly developing in India, where you have the regulator saying, I've sanctioned 1,000 posts, but at least 50% of those positions are still unfilled. And what is happening is that increasingly the regulator is being populated not by engineering or technical staff, but is being populated by bureaucratic staff. Now, bureaucrats are generalists, they are not specialists, and aviation requires specialist inspectors. And my point is that India is the fastest growing aviation market in the world, but is the regulatory framework, the infrastructure at the airports within the government, is it growing in pace with the industry? And that is my fear, that it is not. As of now, the DGCA has been audited by the UN ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. It's been audited by the US FAA and the European EASA, and they are passing. But it is kind of a situation like we have seen at National Airport at Washington, D.C., where the growth of traffic is simply slowly creeping and is beginning to overwhelm the system. And the government has to free the DGCA, make it maybe an independent body, and which is not dependent on the Ministry of Civil Aviation, just like the FAA is dependent on the DOT for funding. We cannot have the DGCA dependent on the ministry for funding, but rather, make it a self-funded system where maybe airlines pay for their own inspections, and they don't perform their own inspections. But it's like if you see, when we have a car in the United States, every year we have to go and get a vehicle inspection sticker, and we pay for that inspection. You have the airlines do the same thing, that the passengers pay a small amount, like say 50 cents or $1 per ticket, which is used to fund the civil aviation, an independent civil aviation regulator.
Okay, so let me just ask you this then. Those are
Yes.
wider issues, obviously, but in practical issues on the ground, on a daily basis, what can be done to try and ensure that the confidence in the Indian airline industry going forward? What can actually be done?
I honestly feel that airlines themselves must come forward. They have to engage with media. Unfortunately, a lot of media in India resorts to what I call scaremongering. Just, I think yesterday, a very famous TV channel reports, a go-around is a major tragedy averted. Come on, a go-around is the ultimate safety tool. If the pilot who's flying the aircraft says, I'm not comfortable, there could be a last-minute crosswind gust, they don't feel comfortable even after the aircraft touches down. They just increase thrust to full and take the aircraft back in the sky, we try again. Now, if you start painting pilots who are taking safety measures like this as a tragedy averted in the sky, that is outright scaremongering. It is the media and the airlines have to work jointly hand in hand, like what you are doing, have a rational discussion on these issues so that the public gains confidence. I am confident. If you ask me, will I get onto an aircraft in India and fly without fear for my life? The simple answer is yes, I will do that. So, yes, definitely we need more inspectors, we need more technical people in order to keep up with our growth. But at the same time, I am confident in the safety of Indian Airlines and in the quality of work of the engineering teams of the various Indian carriers.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Devesh Agrawal, thank you very much indeed for your insights. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot. A crowd. A country frozen. The killer disappears. The questions don't. This is not just about who died. It's about what followed. Governments fell. Armies moved. History rewrote itself. 5 leaders. 5 moments. One pattern. The assassination.